Welcome to the Mulberry Creek Hour. I'm Josh Morgan.
And I'm Vicki Morgan.
And we're Mulberry Creek.
Yay!
Yay!
We're cruising along. It's official. We are around the globe.
We're everywhere. People are downloading this show everywhere.
And sharing it.
It's so cool to see.
What a feeling.
Yeah.
What a feeling. And it only took us, 13 years to get the courage to put this out there.
Yeah.
And start writing songs and recording songs and then, making a platform where we could have other artists come on and talk about what they're up to.
And essentially show the world how awesome we are.
Well, we knew.
We knew.
And apparently, now you guys know. So, of course, if you're listening to this on the podcast, make sure you subscribe because we have some fantastic... This show is fantastic. But the ones that are coming up, I cannot wait.
Let's save that for the end of the show. We'll tell everybody after the show who all of our awesome guests are going to be over the next few weeks.
We're booked. I think we've got the next 7 or 8 episodes. We're still looking for people to be on there, but we've got about 7 or 8 of the next weeks booked up already.
Yeah, so if you want to be on the show, if you're a musician, you want to talk about your music or gigs that you played long ago when we could play gigs out in public, or your songwriting process or any of that fun stuff, let us know. We're on Facebook, the Mulberry Creek Hour. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. Just look us up, man. Find us and send us a message and say, hey, I want to be on your show. And we'll do a Zoom interview like we did with these guys that we're interviewing today.
Yes, and also if you would like to talk about your mental health while all this pandemic thing is going on, if your album release got sidelined or if your entire tour for this year got wiped out, which happened to a lot of artists, a lot of musicians are out of work. So this is a way for us all to still connect with each other and share some music, especially if you have a place where people can go buy your music. Let us know that these things are going on so we can help as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, our international 100-country tour got canceled this spring, and we were super disappointed.
Well,
we were going to sell out arenas.
But we're nothing if not flexible. So we did start the podcast, and we started our Oops Online Coffee House, so we are sharing songs on there. We started our YouTube channel where we also put the podcast, so people can, if they're afraid of podcasts, like myself, you can download it, or you can go watch it on YouTube. Put it on while you're listening, doing the dishes, you're not driving anywhere, but it's you can download and listen to it a little bit later. It's there, and it's going to give you a bright spot in your day, and we're going to join you and make you laugh because we're really funny, right?
Yeah, sometimes
we're funny, right?
Our kids think we're not funny at all.
Well, I think that's a sign of very, very cool people when your kids think you're lame-o.
So listen, we can't talk very much this episode because we want to play one of our songs, obviously. And also, we have a really great interview coming up with Jonathan Hughes and Stephanie Hughes from the band BitterHearts from all the way down in my neck of the woods, North Carolina.
Well, that's where Mulberry Creek is, too.
That's where Mulberry Creek came from.
Yeah.
And Jonathan and I were in a couple of bands years back. And he is the most rock and roll dude I've ever met. And we got a pretty awesome interview coming up with him.
Well, their story is inspiring and fantastic. I don't know if there's anything more rock and roll than Jonathan's story about what happened to him last summer and just kept rolling.
Yeah, it was a pretty big speed bump.
Would have stopped most people in their tracks, and Jonathan and Stephanie just kept rolling, and they're still churning out music. And
they got a new album coming out in a few months, and John sent me a picture on Facebook tonight of his computer. He's mixing and mastering songs.
He's still in there.
He's working.
He's still in the game, man.
They're doing it. So
yep.
It's pretty good. So stick around. Listen to "Garden Party" is our song that we're going to play here in just a couple minutes. And it is the unedited version, so you get that bonus on the podcast.
For the people who are asking, yes, it does have the swear words in it, and that is the beautiful thing about podcasts is you can say whatever you want.
So
you can talk for as long as you want. So we could drag this on. We could turn it into the Mulberry Creek Fortnite if you wanted to. Nobody wants that.
Not related to the game Fortnite.
No, of course not.
So we have Mulberry Creek's new song "Garden Party." We have our interview with John and Stephanie from BitterHearts. We're gonna play 2 of their songs, and then also if you go to our Facebook page,
the show page,
we're gonna post a link to their brand spanking new video that they just released like a week ago.
And wait till you hear the story about how this video was made and what happened the day after.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And how they got this video how they got it finished will blow your mind. Stay tuned. You are going to love this interview with Jonathan Hughes and Stephanie Hughes. And before we get to that, though, we have a brand new song from Mulberry Creek, and this is our first duet on the show.
That means both of us are singing together.
Not the same notes though, because we've learned to harmonize.
Yeah.
I really thought he'd sing along with that. But
Oh,
he didn't.
sorry, I didn't pick up on the
Harmonize. It's better than
Okay,
that.
we'll
The
figure it
song's
out.
way better than
It
that.
takes some practice.
But yeah, so this one has some swear words in it. So if you enjoy that sort of thing, you're gonna love this song. This one has been pretty popular. We've had actually a few requests from this since we posted it on our YouTube channel. So I hope you like it.
So here's Garden Party by Mulberry Creek.
Law of attraction is a scientific fact. Whatever you are putting out is what you're getting back. So if all you're getting's cunts and assholes by the droves, then you never left the garden party down in Nippers Cove. 'Cause the garden party in the cove's an annual event where local heroes going nowhere think they're heaven sent. And all the wives in their flowery blouses gather outside the tent and curse the pretty girls from town and moan their discontent. But if you turn upon your heel and get out of that town, just imagine what life holds for you. There's no keeping you down. No more policemen at the door, no need for those long sleeves, no more suicide attempts to ruin Christmas Eve. Your mother's voice is in your ear, it's not your inner being, dear. She never left the cove, you know she was too scared. I'm the sum of all her fears, if allowed to fester there. But when I attend to them with care, no one can find me here. When you start to see yourself for all that you deserve, there's no smoking ring of fools, no drunken Uncle Pervs, no whispered threats under the breath to keep you from your dreams. Your coin purse of wishes is busting at the seams. Just a happy family in the park and walks around the lake, and squishy puppy bellies, it's a risk you had to take. Get the fuck out of that town and don't ever look back. No better than the rest of us on the same side of the tracks. Law of attraction is a scientific fact. Whatever you are putting out is what you're getting back. So if all you're getting's cunts and assholes by the droves, then you never left the garden party down in Nippers Cove. You never left the garden party down in Nippers Cove. So welcome back to the Mulberry Creek Hour. I'm Vicki Morgan. Of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Josh Morgan. And we are so thrilled to talk to Jonathan Hughes and Stephanie Hughes all the way in North Carolina. Guys, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, guys.
Thrilled to be able to be here.
Thanks for having me.
So, but you're both, so you guys are, of course, in the band BitterHearts. You have there are two other band members. But John, tell me when you started playing music. When did everything start for you?
I started playing when I was 12 and started my first band about 3 or 4 months after getting my first electric bass.
So what do you, officially, you're the guitar player in most of the bands that you've been in, right?
I consider myself to be a bass player, but Kyle's just a little bit better than me. And so I play guitar because he can't do that as good as me.
Stephanie, what's your musical background? Where did you start playing, and what's your history there?
My mom gave me an acoustic guitar that was hers in the 70s. I learned some chords and eventually started leading worship for my church youth group. And it wasn't in a real band until I was like 30.
How long ago was Sex Message started?
Well, that was weird.
Yeah, you should tell that story.
Because my buddy Tom is a comedian, and he had developed this kind of variety show thing at the Comedy Zone in Charlotte, where he would have guests, and I guess he was supposed to interview them or something, and he would have like a musical act on, and he had a comedian coming to town named Allie Breen, And Tom said, "Man, I got this show coming up. I need a female fronted act to kind of keep the show like kind of a girl power thing." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And it just came out of my mouth. I just said, "Cool. Me and Steph just started this new band called Sex Message." And I just said it. It didn't exist. And as I said it, I was like, "That sounds cool."
Absolutely did not exist.
We had never even had a conversation about starting a band. Never anything. We had always talked about how it would be cool that I'm gonna start a band with Stephanie so that to make up for all the time that she just supported what I did artistically.
So you tell Tom.
So I told Tom,
You
yeah,
have
we
this band.
got this band, and we'll play your show. And
How long did you have? How long did you have to get ready?
The show was
5 weeks away.
less time than you should have to start a band,
A band and do a show.
everything.
Yeah.
Then Tom comes in the milestone and says to Stephanie, "Hey, I'm really looking forward to hearing your band and you guys playing my show." None of which I had talked to her about. Still have yet to even say anything to her about the band that we started or that we had a show booked at an actual place that people go to. And
Stephanie, did you have any background in piano at all?
None. Zero.
Wow.
We just got the guitar because we thought it would be fun to mess around with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we had no idea I don't even know that we had any kind of direction or idea about what Sex Message should be.
I just started really irresponsibly and impulsively buying recording gear. Stephanie discovered like that you could just use like samples of like loops from different like websites and whatnot. So she downloaded a bunch of loops and kind of pieced together a song out of just loops. And I was like, this sounds pretty cool. And I just manipulated it just enough and rearranged it into a song. It had chord progressions and some samples of synths and stuff. So we didn't actually play any synths on the first song. They were all just looped. And we made one song and we put it out into the ether for the world to hear. And then that song ended up on our first record. And it was kind of strange because I had an idea of what I thought the song should be about and kind of the attitude of the band. I wanted people to hear it and be entertained by the lyrics or made uncomfortable with. And to be completely honest with you, Steph wrote the lyrics, almost everything that we put out.
So we put together 5 songs like that.
Yeah. And every time we'd finish one, I'd put it up online for people to hear and give us criticism and hear it and this and that. And so we probably had between somewhere 25 minutes to a 30-minute set. And we wrote, recorded, engineered, produced every bit of it in like a month. Yeah. Robot Party was kind of a big hit for us.
Okay.
It was a popular song for us.
Robot Party.
It was kind of like our big finish every night.
And if you'd like any of the other music that these guys put together, you can go to Bandcamp, iTunes, Spotify. There's a whole bunch of places that you can get the 2 full-length albums that they put together. And that, of course, was written by mostly Stephanie, but that was a combined effort, right? That was Jonathan and Stephanie.
Definitely combined effort.
Okay, so this is from that album that you guys did with Sex Message. This song is called Robot Party. Let's hear it.
Cover for me tomorrow. even gotta work, catching robot checks. I got a muscular robot, he can robot flex. Ain't even gotta spin robots running the decks. I understand if you're a skeptic. Even I didn't know what to expect. My robots get shit done and then we start to wreck. So you get a bigger die, that's robots, yeah.
Calling all our friends. It's going down tonight. We're calling into work tomorrow. Robot party all night. Call up all your friends and get them up tonight. We're calling into work tomorrow. Party till the daylight. Calling all our friends. It's going down tonight. We're calling into work tomorrow. Robot party all night. Call up all your friends and get turned up tonight. We're calling into work tomorrow. Party till the daylight.
Welcome back to the Mulberry Creek Hour. I'm Josh Morgan, here with my co-host Vicky Morgan, and we are joined today by Stephanie Hughes and Jonathan Hughes of BitterHearts.
Yeah, all the way from Lincolnton, North Carolina. So, hey guys, let's get back to it. So, BitterHearts. So, tell me a little bit about you guys. Were on the. You have an album. It's just about ready to be released. You did your first video last year, and then the ass end fell out of it. John, tell me what
Yeah.
that was like for you, and then Stephanie, I want to hear what that day was like for you as well. The day after the video for Any Day Now.
So we just started writing and recording, well, almost like right away with BitterHearts. Kyle, obviously, and Kyle and I have been friends since we were in the 6th grade. We met, we were 12. Kyle's a great singer and songwriter, and he was in 25 Minutes to Go with us. We ended up in his band. Like, he kind of went from being Kyle Perkins, or KP Solo Man 5000, as we called it, to becoming the Kyle Perkins Band. Please go to Bandcamp and listen to that record.
Yeah.
It's really good. We did that all in our home studio, and I played bass and keys on the record, and Steph sang on a whole bunch of it. And that was kind of how I learned to play keys. Actually learned to play a little bit. I was like, man, this song needs like a ragtime kind of country sounding piano.
Mm-hmm.
So I just learned to play enough to do that.
Yeah.
Come to think of it, that's also how that happened for me, because you did it on the record, and then you played bass live for the Kyle Perkins Band, and I played those key parts that you played on the record.
And I personally believe that musically, Steph and Kyle and myself were born to sing 3-part harmonies together. And the idea was that Steph was going to sing, Kyle and I were going to back her up, and she's going to play keys, and we're going to play guitar and bass and drums. And it's going to be tight. And that's what we were working on up until the end of August, where we had been recording the BitterHearts record. You know, we had recorded all the drums in the studio, and Kyle came over and played bass. Like, I had been working a little bit away here and there, just trying to get the guitars done. And we were finishing up the synths. We were trying to finish up this particular song that we shot the video for Any Day Now. There was a part that I was writing a synth part for that. So we went to the movies on a Tuesday. I've suffered from high blood pressure I've been medicated for my blood pressure for like 3 years now. And it's a hereditary thing for sure. Everybody in my family's got it. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, I'd been working 80 hours a week for the better part of a decade in a real stressful situation. My blood pressure was out of control, just crazy high. And we go to the movies, and I drink this big soda, and I eat all this popcorn, drink all this and eat all this stuff I'm not used to doing. We get back home, I don't feel great. I'm in the studio and I'm trying to play this keyboard part. I just got a headache. It's a really bad headache. And I kind of stumble a little bit, kind of catch myself on top of my guitar amp. And I stumble out into the hallway, and I'm trying to get down the hall to the living room. And Steph said it looked like I was walking on the side of my left foot. And I kind of fall down in the living room on the couch, my knees on the floor, my elbows on the couch, got my phone in my hand, and I call my mom. And Stephanie's in my ear. She's saying, hey, I think we need to go to the hospital. Why don't you go get in the car? Because if you don't get in the car, I'm not going to be able to get you in the car. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. So I called my mom, and I said, Mom, you need to come get Nora. Hey, what's going on? I said, I don't know. I don't feel good. So I need you to come get Nora. Steph's going to take me to the hospital. And then she's on the phone. She's already called 911. She's on the phone with paramedics. And I hear her say, I think he's having a stroke. And when she said it, it clicked in my head. I was like, that's exactly what's happening to me right now. Yes, I am having a stroke. So I kind of get myself pulled up onto the couch because my left side is not working. Nothing. And so I get myself up onto the couch. And they showed up, and they didn't really have to get me up off the couch. They just kind of laid the stretcher thing in the floor. And they're like, do you think you can get on that? I was like, oh, yeah, I can get down lower. I kind of slumped down onto the thing and rolled over onto the thing in the floor, and they picked me up, put me on the wheelie part, the gurney or whatever, and they rolled me out, and they put me in an ambulance and took me to the hospital in Lincolnton. Took me in the chopper and take me to Charlotte because they said I'm having what they call a hemorrhagic stroke. I've got blood on my brain. And basically what's happening is as the blood's filling up in your head, and it's basically like somebody's just really slowly poking their finger into your brain, from what I understand. Not to get all scientific on here. But, I wake up like 3 days later, apparently, in the ICU in Charlotte. So basically I'm paralyzed on my entire left side from the stroke. I could walk now with a cane. So I'm in the hospital for a month. They get me out of the hospital and they get me in a rehab clinic in Mount Holly. Like the first day I go to physical therapy is, that you see it in movies where they have those parallel bars. You see people like themselves up with them and trying to learn to walk. And I'm in a wheelchair and they roll me into that gym and I see those parallel bars there. I'm like, oh God, those things from movies. And at this point in the hospital, they had this like weird chair that would help me stand up. So I've stood up twice in the last month at this point. And I just stood up and sat back down. Like they got me to stand up one time and Steph gave me a hug. And because I couldn't stand up on my own. I just had no strength in my left leg at all.
And that was when did you go? When did that happen? That Tuesday? When was that last?
That was August.
August.
Yeah.
And you were in the hospital until September 12th.
Yeah.
You got moved to rehab. And then you were released from rehab on October 24th.
Yeah, I was in rehab from September 12th to October 24th. So the surgeon, in the hospital, they operate on me. They get the blood off my brain. I don't die. I wake up several days later. I'm laying in the hospital, and I'm thinking we had a show booked. It was this like we were going to play a show on a Sunday afternoon, and our kids were going to come to the show. It was going to be fun. And I'm laying there in the bed thinking, I'm supposed to be playing a show right now. I don't know if I'll ever play again. And I'm 36, and I've been in a band since I was 12 years old. And now all of a sudden, I don't know if I'll ever play guitar or bass again in my life. And I still don't really know that. Now it's all these months later. And that sucks. I've only just recently started getting some movement back in my left hand, but I had some black market stem cell therapy, which was tight. I must
Wow.
like that.
It's not as sketchy as it's not sketchy at all as that sounds.
Do you put it in yourself? Like how black market are we talking here?
Basically, I just chewed them up and ate them.
We have a really fantastic doctor who has a great network of colleagues.
Connection.
How many treatments do you need of that?
Well, I only got just one. One's all you need.
Wow. Stephanie, can you tell me, going back to the Tuesday, coming back from the movie, obviously John has a different perspective of what happened that day. What's it like for you when your husband, the father of your daughter, is on the floor, and you're calling 911 and his mom's on the phone? Like, you're probably thinking he's not getting up off the floor, right?
Yeah. Basically, once we were in the beat lab recording the song, Jonathan complains of the headache. It's about 7:00. Usually takes his blood pressure medicine. We have an alarm set for it at 7:30. We figured, oh, well, he ate and drank this terrible stuff today. He's just having a little blood pressure spike. Let's go ahead and do 7:30 meds. But we realized quickly, I realized it was more than that when I handed him the bottle of water to chase his medicine with, and it basically just poured out the side of his mouth. And then he gets up to walk down the hall. He's literally, it didn't just look like he was walking on the side of his foot. He was walking on the side of his foot and didn't know it.
Okay.
Sits down on the couch. He's dialing his mom. I see his face start to droop. Like, I'm putting the pieces together. I know that's what's happening. So I'm on the phone with 911 and telling them what's happening. Jonathan's losing consciousness. I don't want Nora to be scared, so I send her out to, like, hey, they're coming, go listen for the sirens, and you can tell him to come in the front door, put Frank in the kitchen, make sure he's got food and water, giving her stuff to do to keep her busy. At the same time, trying to keep Jonathan with me conscious, because, the person on the phone with me, she's telling me, okay, if he goes out on you, I may need to do CPR on him. So my goal is to keep him conscious so that doesn't happen, because I don't know if I get him down on the floor to be able to, like, do that, if I'm going to be able to get him back up. So they get there, Nora is out. We had, like, the best team that came to help, because the driver of the ambulance was about my age, and she was very comforting to Nora at the same time as, all this is going on. So, yeah, it was scary. And they, once she went inside, she's like, I think you need to go outside and be with your daughter. Calm her down. Nora was having a panic attack out in the yard. Then they roll Jonathan out. I have no idea what's going on inside. I'm trying to, I've got Nora with her back towards the door out in the yard. I'm trying to, peep in the front door and see what's happening as, they're working on Jonathan, and I hear them yelling for him to stay with them, asking him questions. And then we see the stretcher come out, and they put him in the ambulance. They instruct me to, go ahead and follow us to the hospital, because Nora and I couldn't ride in the ambulance, of course. So we get in the car. By this time, Jonathan's mom, I'd taken the phone from Jonathan and explained to his mom what was going on as I was on the phone with EMTs, or with dispatch, waiting for the EMTs to get there. And Jonathan's mom and stepdad actually beat us to the hospital. So they're already in the emergency room when Nora and I get there. And I mean, we still didn't know what was going on, because they were trying to stabilize Jonathan in the back before they even let us go back and see him in the emergency department. But then once they got him stable enough, they basically briefed us on what was happening. The doctor didn't have a whole lot of words for us about the situation because it was almost too much for them to handle in Lincoln. Like they didn't have the necessary equipment. I mean, our hospital is great, but
Yeah.
they're not specialists there.
Yeah.
Charlotte, they have an entire department devoted to
Yeah.
stroke. So basically they tell us, do what you need to do, settle whatever you need to settle. Jonathan's going in a helicopter as soon as we get, as soon as a room in the ICU becomes available in Charlotte, because they were basically trying to take him from the helicopter landing pad at Atrium Health Main in Charlotte straight to a room because things were that critical. So they were basically keeping him stable in Lincoln until they could make that move completely. Me and Jonathan's mom drove to Charlotte. And they were just getting him into a room when we got there. Like they had to call up to the floor because it hadn't been relayed down to the main entrance yet where he was. So he got there about midnight on Wednesday morning. From midnight until about 4:30 in the morning, they were just monitoring him. We were in the room with him. He wasn't conscious. Basically, they knew they were going to have to perform this surgery to save his life, but had to wait for him to be stable enough to where they knew he wouldn't bleed out on the table. About 4:30, they realized he was going to be stable enough for when the surgeons came in at 5 to be able to do this surgery. So one of the surgeons comes in and tells me, he's handing me a clipboard and saying, here are the possibilities of what could happen. Do we have your permission to do this surgery? And that was the worst part of the entire thing, I think. Because Jonathan's mom was in the room and she had no words, no advice. She's like, it's your call. She could barely get, she was crying. She's like, it's, you have to make that decision. And I said, well, I mean, we don't have a choice. And he said, you really don't. He's like, I don't do surgeries just to do them, just to get stats. I'm not. He said, this is what has to happen. I said, okay.
Or he'll die without it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Signed the paper. Like 45 minutes later, they took him down to get prepped. They said the surgery will take about an hour and a half. At 45 minutes, the same surgeon came back in, and I braced myself. I was like, oh, he's back too soon. And he said it went well. The mass of blood on his brain was so big that it was easy to get out because it was so big, it had gone so deep in his brain, but it was still almost surface level because of the size of it. So it was, they could get to it easily. So, but 45 minutes passed. He came back in the room. So it went well. He's doing okay. He's in recovery. He's going to be there for a little bit. And so we knew at that point that, we did the right thing because the past almost 12 hours have been like, we have no idea what's happening. So, yeah, it was a crazy night. I don't think I slept until, I remember because we were only allowed so many people in the ICU, so I would trade out with people because people just came to see him all the time, and you could only have like 2 or 3 people in there. And so I remember going out into the lobby area on Sunday afternoon, and it was the first time I had left your room since we got to the hospital. And I sat down in a chair, and like the next thing I knew, it was like 20 minutes later, and I have no idea like where those 20 minutes went. That was the first time I'd slept since like Tuesday night, or when we got up on Tuesday. But like I knew at that point, I guess my body shut down at that point. I knew you were out of the woods enough to where it was okay, because you had come back around. You were conscious at that point.
Wow.
So September, October, November, December. That was how long ago? 8 months?
8 months.
So, Jonathan, you said you're able to walk now with a cane.
I can walk.
No facial paralysis. There's no anything else, just your arm.
Yeah, just my arm and my leg.
No speech issues at all. I mean,
No, not. The only danger I'm really in now is, because like it's the sheer size of my brain.
obviously.
Is that it's like my eyes could just pop out at any moment. There's just no room. There's no room in there for the back of my eyeballs.
I think just get some bigger hats and you'll be all right.
There you
Yeah.
go. So you're doing the stem cell therapy, and
Did that.
it sounds almost, I feel like it's a really important question and also a trivial question, but where does music fit into your life now? Because I
Now?
feel like this is the thing that has, like the thing that you do that brings you joy and happiness. And it
Yeah.
seems like you've always managed to find a way to fit it into your life. So you've had 8 months. What's the plan? What do you have now? Like, do you have a plan yet for music in your life?
Yeah, I'm gonna play again. I'm just gonna keep getting better. But what I've done since then is that, well, when I got out of rehab, we had to go stay at Steph's mom's house, because in the process of me being gone, we had to sell our house and we were trying to buy a new house.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. So my studio got disassembled by my brother and some friends and staff, and everything I own gets put into storage. And at some point I was like, man, we had shot this video. I never did finish recording that synth part that I was playing when I fell over. And I was like, I got to do that because that song was the one for the video. So Chris, the producer on the video, couldn't release it until he had the audio for it. So the very first thing I did was, I've got like a little Mac Mini that runs my software, my recording software. I was like, I need that computer, a monitor, a mouse, and one of my keyboards. I basically get that set up at her mom's house, where I've just got one of our guitars on a stand because I can't guitar it because my left hand doesn't work,
Right.
which is not as fun. Trust me. When you've guitared and then you got to not, what's even for?
That's the real tragedy. That is the tragedy here, isn't
A
it?
really sad thing is a guitar on a keyboard stand.
The guitar's soul is dying. I can feel it from here, that soul is dying, not being played.
It's like seeing a bald eagle in a cage.
Exactly.
A little tiny bird cage.
So you got it recorded, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I sit down and I'm looking at my monitor, and I've got to try to put myself back into the headspace of where I was months prior, and with a brain injury and a couple months worth of hospital and rehab between it. I got to try to insert myself back into that moment. I remember specifically being like, this is a really unorganized desktop. And, but so with my recording, I'm really bad about labeling things properly, or like everything is a joke to me all the time. So I label things like funny things. Like I'll have like guitar that sounds like poop, not what it should say.
Because you're never thinking, I'm going to need to come back in a few months after I've had
Yeah,
a stroke
after the
and
stroke.
figure all this out again. Right.
Totally. So I got my headphones on, and I'm staring at this monitor full of nonsense of all this stuff happening all at the same time, and I haven't even like looked at a computer screen at all since August, and it's like Christmas time. So I get into the song and I get my keyboard set up, and I find a synth that sounds good, and I can't remember how the song goes.
So there was no brain damage, right? There was no like functioning
I didn't
affected.
Not any more than I had probably already had.
Right. But so it's been a few months since you've touched it. And also, I'm going to point out the emotional aspect of that near-death experience and going back to that literal brain space that you had to be in that day that it happened to start recording it again. I mean, that's
everything that had happened since then.
that's like a post-traumatic stress disorder. Like that's the recipe for PTSD. Like I can't believe there's a finished product right now on YouTube and that you were able to do that. I mean, jokes aside about the giant brain, but that takes
so I tried to
enormous
remember
courage.
what I was playing in that moment. I remember that it was slightly melodic and a little bit more complicated than what ended up coming out. I don't think what ended up in there is as good as what would have been on there if I had not fallen over that day. But it was okay.
Do you think it might have been so good that your brain just like exploded because it was so good?
Yes.
I think that's a good.
I think that's 100%
good rationale.
sure what happened. That's what it was. What the part I wrote was so good that my brain just couldn't handle it.
Yep.
Well, we're done. That's
That's
it. We're out of here.
We can't top that. So yeah.
I'm out of here. It was weird. It was like, so I got it in there, and I sent it to one friend to master it, to get it back to Chris for the video, and I sent him the wrong song like 3 times, and he mastered the wrong song. Sent me back a really great sounding track, and I was like, oh man, this sounds awesome. This is not the song that we shot a video for. And
Thanks.
yeah. Yeah, and he was super sweet. I haven't even told. He like didn't charge me for the mastering. It's the least I can do after everything you've been through.
Nice.
I was, awesome, thanks, dude. Oh, by the way, it's the wrong song. So then I had and eventually get him the right song, and Chris, the video guy, ends up with the track at some point, and we ended up putting the video out like last week, I think, like first part, like less than 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So there's this thing just in limbo the whole time.
Yeah.
This unfinished project. So since then, I finished mixing and mastering the record, which I was really stoked to find out that I had finished playing all the guitars.
That's good.
I was pretty sure I had, but I was like, there's nothing missing. Good, because I can play anyway. So what's on here is what's getting on here. So I got back into my workflow of the mix, and that was fun, and it actually was pretty fulfilling. And I was like, well, if I don't ever play again, I could do this, because I love recording and engineering, and I've recorded a bunch of other bands that have put out albums that I've recorded. So I've enjoyed doing that for years now. It's like the next best thing to playing is helping somebody else make records. I really like producing. and engineering albums. I like working with young bands who've never recorded before, because I just remember what it was like being very green and going into a studio and being just really blown away with the process.
Yeah.
So I like to do that, to kind of play that role that he played in my life for other people. So if I can't play guitar, I'm going to keep recording, because my ears work. My right hand can click a mouse all day long.
Mm.
If I just got somebody to help me plug stuff in every now and then, when make sure I don't trip and fall on anything, I think I could probably record, and be relatively fulfilled musically.
So Jonathan, you can still write music, and you can still record and mix and master and produce, and the whole resume is still there, but
Yeah.
maybe some of the guitar and bass. But you've found, like, you've lost bass players and guitar players, and just we're just flexible with it and rolled with it. So,
Yeah, we talked briefly about the idea of, like, if I don't get it back, is that it for BitterHearts? Maybe. We could always get another guitar player.
Stephanie, do you see a lot of songs coming out of this whole experience? This is a pretty big experience that has a happy ending. Like, do you see a lot of music coming out of this experience?
Every single song we've written has come out of, we don't just make it, well, I mean, Sex Message, I guess we did make up things out of thin air.
Mhm.
Fantasy world with robots and things like that, but all of our songs have been inspired by something.
Yeah.
Some kind of event. Like my favorite BitterHearts song we've written was one that we wrote after my dad passed away. Lyrically, I'm most proud of it. I mean, I don't see how this couldn't inspire some music.
Yeah. So you guys have all your stuff is on Bandcamp, iTunes, all those places, and you have a new album that is ready to be released.
The BitterHearts record will be out in the next, I would like to say, 6 months.
Okay, awesome. And once you say it out loud, it's going to happen. That's out loud. It's just like writing it down, right? It makes it happen. So the new album's on the way out. Of course, the new music video for Any Day Now is up on YouTube, and we'll post a link to that on our podcast page as well. And and this is a song we're going to close out with, Empty. So this is by BitterHearts, and this is Empty, and we'll be right back with BitterHearts right after this song. So that was Empty by BitterHearts, and we are, of course, joined today on Mulberry Creek by Jonathan Hughes and Stephanie Hughes from Lincoln to North Carolina. And I cannot thank you guys enough for sharing so much of your story. You guys have a really incredible story, and like the fact that there's a thread of music from your early teens right on through till now, and it got you through such a tough time in your life is really, it's beautiful. I'm really glad that you guys shared it with us, and I'm looking forward to what comes next, because I still think there's a comic book, probably a whole series of comic books with an origin story of a superhero who gets black market stem cells and, I don't know, becomes some sort of, maybe you'll be the first 3 or 4 armed guitar player and you can play both guitars at the same time, or patent pending, copyright on that idea.
Oh, it's such a good idea.
What an ultimate band that would be. This is a really inspiring story, and the love that you guys have for each other and the way you've learned to communicate with each other, with music especially, is really beautiful. And I need to go and cry a little while and get myself back together. But this was a real honor that you guys shared this with me, with both of us. And if there's ever anything we can do, ever, let us know. There might be a couple of 1,000 miles between us, but we're a phone call away for anything we can ever do to help. So thank you so much to BitterHearts and Jonathan Hughes and Stephanie Hughes, all the way from Lincoln to North Carolina. Thanks so much for being on the Mulberry Creek Hour, and this was an absolute honor. And we're going to keep an eye. We want to know when the album comes out. Keep in touch with us and let us know what else is going on and when the shows start up again, because, John, it's obviously you're going to be back on stage, and it's going to be great to see. So make sure there's lots of cameras and send us lots of footage, and hopefully we'll be down there for some of the shows. So this has been great. Thank you guys so much.
Love to have you. Love to see you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks again to John and Stephanie for being on the show. It was really great to see you guys and talk to you guys after all these years. Thanks for being on the show, guys.
And we wish Jonathan a full recovery. He's doing so great, and he's just going to be right back in the saddle soon, hopefully. So thanks so much, guys.
They have a new video that we talked about during the interview. We'll post a link to that. So keep an eye out for the video and their new album that they're going to be releasing in the next few months.
And for fans of the Mulberry Creek Hour, stay tuned over the next few weeks. We have some absolutely amazing guests. There's rumors going around that a certain Miss Jan Arden is going to be on our show, and we cannot wait to talk to her. I mean, oh my. Wow, okay. Woo. Anyway,
okay?
It's going to be,
okay?
She's a big deal.
I'll get her a paper bag, folks. She's going to be just fine.
She's going to be absolutely, oh my. Oh, I'm a mess.
You'll be just fine.
I'm already a mess. So we're excited about that. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast, and thank you to every single person who shared it. We are all over the globe, folks. People are downloading this. We can actually see where the downloads are happening. Blown away by the response to our show. And for every person that's out there sharing it or telling one friend about it, thank you so much, because we are just loving this so much. We love connecting with you guys and interviewing all these great musicians and with sharing what we're doing. Like, this is the best thing we've ever done.
Yeah, and thanks for tuning in, folks, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Absolutely. See you
Bye.
later.